potent advice, and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I am Jaime Masters, and I am ridiculously excited to have Tom Bilyeu on the show. He's co-founder of Quest Nutrition Bars, which are my godsend. Thank you very much. And he also co-founded and hosts Impact Theory, which is an amazing podcast video channel that you should all check out. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Seriously, when I told everyone like the Quest Nutrition guy, everybody went crazy. You have such a name for yourself. What made you start Impact Theory to begin with? Because you already had so much success. Why bother starting something new?
That is the question that is on everybody's lips. And the idea really behind it was wanting to address the mind as well as the body. And I had secretly hoped that the Quest brand would be flexible enough that we'd be able to pull that off. But brands are very particular. So for people out there that are building their first brand, let me tell you, the way that people perceive your brand gets really specific really fast.
Really? You'd think Quest is a perfect alignment, even just the name is a perfect alignment. What didn't work about that?
Well, the great irony is when I first started, it was called Inside Quest, the podcast that's now Impact Theory. And people were saying, what is the protein bar guy doing talking about mindset? And now the irony is that we just launched a new show on our channel, the Impact Theory channel, called Health Theory. And people are asking, why is the mindset guy talking about health and protein bars? So the great irony of my life is that. But to me, there's really two pandemics that are happening right now. There's the pandemic of the body, which is incredibly visible. People totally get that. But then there's the pandemic of the mind, and that's largely invisible, and people don't think of it in the same way that they think of physical health. So I wanted to be able to address both, and thankfully we had just gotten to the point at Quest where we had had so much success. The business was going so well that I had the wherewithal to build whatever I wanted to build. And ultimately, at the core of my being is a desire to empower people. And in one of the very first episodes of Inside Quest, I had actually said that when I'm at my most authentic, even more than I'm about the helping people master the body, I really want to pull people out of the matrix using my language. So I want to find a way to help people get empowering beliefs that are going to allow them to accomplish what they want in life. And that I find is really what holds people back. It was certainly what held me back. And so, yeah, by starting something new, by rebranding it, by really making the intent of the company very specific to that, making that the mission of the company, attracted a different audience and is now allowing me to do what I think is the ultimate aim of my life.
So I love that you messed up also, right? I love that. But it's also really interesting to think of the way that people are putting you in boxes. So do you find that the people that love nutrition side and body stuff don't as easily want the mindset stuff, or vice versa?
You know, I don't think it's that. What I think it is people really look at companies in very specific ways. And so the first mistake that I made was when we were at Quest, we actually launched a high fashion line, if you can believe that. And it made so much sense to us. And I really want people to understand that listening to this, like, it made all the sense in the world to us, because for us, behind why we started Quest, like you were saying with the name, was a belief system. And it was the belief system that drove us. And it was the belief system that led us to believe that we could make food that people chose based on taste. And it was all about mindset. And even transforming the body is about mindset, and it's about setting a goal and going after it. And so we thought, hey, let's capture that mindset. Let's put these like slogans and ideas on nice clothes. It's something nobody's doing. A lot of people are doing it on t-shirts, but nobody's doing it on nicer clothes. And we just didn't have the sobriety to see that the world looks at our brand as being about protein bars. And so they think of consumer packaged goods. They think of being, in a GNC, or they think of being in a Ralph's. And like for them, they couldn't cross that chasm to think the same people that are doing that are making clothes. So even though it is the same people, and it is even the same mindset that maybe drew them to the gym and eating right in the first place, they don't think of the brand the same. So the like invisible feelings that people have about your brand come to bear when you try to launch another product. So that's why normally the other products that people launch are going to be adjacent to what they're already doing. So if we had launched a line of athletic wear, I think people would have understood. It would have made all the sense in the world. But in the beginning, like they didn't see us. They weren't buying the protein bars because of the mindset, even though that's what was driving us as the business guys behind it. And so everything that they felt about the brand was just totally different.
I love that you said sobriety, like entrepreneurship is the drunkenness because we can't see outside from what we're doing.
Yeah,
right?
we really can't. And that's something that, I think about a lot and remind the team that you've got to be able to put yourself in the shoes of the consumer if you really want to understand your marketing.
Yeah, because sometimes we get too close to the problem. So then how did you capture the intention of the same people that are eating Quest bars with Impact Theory, even though it was just a different brand sort of segment?
It's legitimately brute force. And this was ultimately why I moved it out of Quest. So I could have done it in Quest. It would have been very expensive, would have taken a very long time, but ultimately people are going to get there, right? So by moving it out, not only did I get the ease of the rebrand, which made it easier because now it's just a clean slate, but I alone bear the cost. So my partners don't have to go on that very expensive journey when they don't necessarily share my passion for pulling people out of the matrix. So that was really one of the deciding factors was, okay, if this doesn't work, I'm not dragging other people along with me because literally all I'm doing is adding value. And I think at the end of the day, and take Apple, right? Apple's the case everybody always gives of going into a marketplace that is not tangential in any way, shape, or form. When they first went into, iTunes, that I don't think people can recapture today how weird that was back then. But that was a move totally to the side. But they saw something, an area where they could add value, and then they just stuck to their guns because they believed that it added value. And so that's where I'm at with the content. I knew it added value, and I knew that ultimately people would get over the hurdle of, okay, yes, I'm the same guy that was making protein bars, but at the end of the day, I'm finding a way to add value to people's lives. And so sticking with that and doing that and putting in the time, that ultimately is the punchline.
Okay, so that actually leads in perfectly to what I wanted to talk about, because I feel like long term, you knew the vision, you could totally see it. And when you go short term and you go, how the heck do we get this to work? How did you know when to switch from the quote unquote failure on Inside Quest to going out on your, especially because you had all the resources within that and then you went out, right? So like that weird middle spot where the vision is clear. Yeah, I'm going to inspire all these people. But the short term, what the heck do I do now? How did you figure out the forest for the trees in that?
So there's really two things going on there. Number one is that you have to have business acumen. And I have a deep and abiding terror that I'll become known as like the inspiration guy or the motivation guy. I want to be known as the execution guy. Like I want people to turn to me when they need the answers on how they actually cross the chasm from idea to reality. And that's certainly what I did in my own life. And so that was part one, was I understand business. I know how to monetize. I know how to do something profitable. I know how to run a team. So I knew going into a new endeavor that I'm not starting from scratch. In that perspective, I still have all my knowledge. I know how to do this. So cool, I've got that. Then the second part is I'll just give everyone the punchline to what they're thinking about now as either an entrepreneur who's at the beginning of their journey or somebody who's thinking that they want to go into this, and literally forget everything else that I say. The following statement is the most important thing I can convey to you. And the fact that I'm really taking the time to stop, I want people to listen. This is so important. I lost 8.5 years of my life to this because I didn't understand this. The goal of the game that you're playing is not money and it's not success. It's brain chemistry. It's how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. That's it. So I spent 8.5 years chasing money. I turned myself into a multimillionaire, and I was miserable in a way that I know people listening to this get that, lost, hopeless. What am I doing this for? Nothing feels good. Nothing feels right. I'm profoundly unhappy. This isn't worth it anymore. And so I went into my partners. This is when we were running a tech company, because the company before Quest was a technology company. And I went in and I said, guys, look, I quit. I had taken myself from copywriter to being an owner in the company. They gave me 10% of the company just because I was delivering that level of performance. And I said, look, here's your equity back. I'm not going to cross the finish line. I don't think I should get anything for this. So literally gave up millions of dollars and said, I just have to go feel alive. I have to go enjoy my life. I need things that give me more energy than they take. And I can't tell you how surprising it was to me to be living the cliche of money can't buy happiness, because it's so predictable. Like, so many people say it, and it's like, I still didn't get it. And so I've thought a lot about this, and here's why I didn't get it. Money is insanely powerful. Whatever you think about money, it's better than you think. It's more powerful than you think, but it's entirely different than what you've been told. Money is the great facilitator, but that's it. It is inert. It doesn't do anything. So if you don't know what you want to facilitate with it, all of the energy, all of the late nights, all of the failures and having to face up to that, all of the risk and the just blood, sweat, and tears, it won't be worth it. You won't have the energy to fight through it because you don't know what you're fighting for. You're fighting for this inert piece of paper or, zeros and ones inside of a digital database somewhere. Like, it will not be enough. I just can't state that emphatically enough. But answering your question about why impact theory and why did I go out and leave this sort of warm thing, of that enclosure of Quest, and it was so successful. At the end of the day, I'm beyond proud of that, and helping people overcome the issues of the body will forever remain one of the most important things that I do on a day-to-day basis, which is why, like I said, we've launched the new show here. But I know how I want to feel about myself. I know what the impact is that I want to have in the world, and I've worked in the inner cities a lot. And at Quest, I had 1,400 employees, and 1,000 of them, let's say roughly, had grown up in the inner cities because it was all manufacturing, had grown up in the inner cities, had grown up hard. They, just witnessed unimaginable stuff. And the mindset that they had was so limited that even though they were extraordinary human beings, they were never going to go and do anything. And so the time that I spent with people one-on-one, like saying, okay, look, I used to be lost and alone and feeling like you feel, and this is what I did to actually execute on my dreams, and like trying to teach that and give that made me feel so good and made my life so worthwhile that I was like, I want to do this. But I have an absolute obsession with scale. I'm not interested in doing one-on-one mentoring, because at the end of my life, if I absolutely just murdered it, what could I do? Could I help 10,000 people? Would you even give me 1 million people? Which one-on-one, I will just tell you right now, you're never, ever, ever going to be able to do it. But even if I was like 2 million people, 3 million people, it's nothing. When you think that there are, 7.2 billion people on the planet, it's like it just wasn't the scale that I wanted to do. So when I started looking at the problem at scale, it was just a totally different business.
So the exact thing that you just said is the reason why I have this site. I had $1 million goal, realized life first, then money. But that self-awareness is painful also. When you're like, I've been working this hard and this is what I have to show for it. How do they actually, A, have the self-awareness of that piece, and B, jump the chasm that is, okay, I now know I have self-awareness, but that how, like you said, how do we actually go after the thing that's unknown, the thing that's scary, the thing that brings up all sort of insecurity and fears when you also have no idea what you're jumping over to?
Yeah. So one, the notion of them getting the self-awareness, like that's already such a big deal that they believe that, because that is the key. You've got to believe, and humans lead with belief. Okay. So you're going to need to believe you can do something before you actually go out and do it, because you're not going to do it unless you believe your efforts are going to be rewarded. That's where most people stop, because they don't. So I have just a core belief that's irrespective of me, regardless of who you are, what you've done, what you're capable of, what you think about yourself, set it all aside. Humans are the ultimate adaptation machine. We are literally wired from the ground up to grow, to encounter a stressor, and to grow in response, right? I mean that at a biological level. So even just looking at neuroplasticity, the way that the brain works. So the way that it works, you encounter something, you're learning it through repetition, your brain wires for that. Your brain is trying to make things as easy as possible, so it reinforces these neural networks so that doing something, whether it's dance, whether it's playing a video game, whether it's running a business, like the things that you do over and over and over, your brain is going to facilitate the ease of that by wiring those together. So they say that neurons that fire together, wire together. So now if you'll just give me that, if you'll just believe, like in the gym, you go in the gym, and on day one, you can't lift the same weight that you can 6 months later if you're disciplined and you stay at it, okay? That's what the body does. It responds to stressors with an adaptation response. Okay, I don't need to believe I'm cool. I just need to believe that that is fundamentally true about humans. Okay, cool. I believe that about humans. So training anything, self-awareness, business acumen, whatever it is, I know I can get good at it if I do the reps. Right? So if people are willing to believe that, then it becomes a question of clarity. All right, so now what do you want to do? Because to cross the chasm, you have to first identify the chasm, which means you need to know where you're going and you need to know where you are. So self-awareness is going to take care of where you are, but it's not going to tell you where you want to go. And I find that most people have absolutely no clarity on where they want to go whatsoever. It's literally terrifying. And the worst part is, like, I'd be okay with that if people knew that they didn't have clarity, but they don't know. And so they think they're clear, and they'll come to me and say something like, hey, Tom, I'm super clear on what I want to do. Awesome, man. What do you want to do? I want to win a gold medal. In what? The Olympics? Yes, the Olympics. Fantastic. Winter or summer? Summer. Great. Tennis or swimming? Swimming. Fantastic. Do you want to do the freestyle medley? Do you want to do the breaststroke? Like you've got to get so clear, because if you just tell me that you want to win a gold medal and I don't even know if you're talking about the Olympics, let alone what sport, then I don't know how to tell you to train. And that's the chasm. It is a lack of clarity that kills everyone.
So in that clarity, because I think that's the thing, it's very vague when people talk about clarity. They're like, oh, sure, I have it. I have a gold medal. How do we know what level we dive deep in of that? I know metrics, I know that sort of stuff, but what would you do to make sure that they are super clear without having you in their living room?
Well, you've got to be able to say not only what you want to accomplish, and like with a scary degree of specificity, you need to know exactly what person you're serving. You need to know exactly what problem they're facing. Like, you need to be able to articulate these, not in run-on sentences, in like really single, simple sentences. So I'll give you an example in my own life. Okay, Quest. What is our mission? To end metabolic disease. Awesome. How are we going to do that? By creating food that people choose based on taste, and it happens to be good for them. Cool. Now I have a filter. Every decision that I go to make, do I use this ingredient or that ingredient? Well, which ingredient is more metabolically advantageous? Okay, cool, that ingredient. But Tom, it's more expensive. Yes, I understand that, but here are my goals. They're very clear. My goal was not to build $1 billion company. That happened to be the result of saying I'm going to end metabolic disease, and I'm going to do it by making food that people choose based on taste, and it happens to be good for them. Like, see, I can repeat it, right? It's really easy. It's really punchy. It's really concise. You've got to get to that point. So the same is true with impact theory. So what is impact theory? Impact theory is designed to pull people out of the matrix. And by that, I mean, we all have a set of beliefs, and those beliefs will set you free or limit you. So I want to give people empowering beliefs. How do we do that? The way that humans assimilate their belief system is through narrative, the story they tell themselves about themselves. What's a very easy way that people get those modern day narratives? They get them from friends, they get them from family. Okay, well, I can't control that. But the third thing they get it from is pop culture. Okay, cool. Well, I can impact that. What are the 5 forms of narrative that have embedded themselves in pop culture? Books, comic books, TV shows, movies, video games, and ultimately VR. Okay, well, there it is. So I know I'm going to be playing in those arenas. Okay, well, how do I get good at that? Well, there's a high failure rate, so I know all of that. Cool. Movies and TV, we'll say, are the ultimate. They're the most impactful, the ones that reach the broadest audience, but they're also the most expensive. So what's a traditional feeder into that? And look, I can just keep going till we get back to like my day-to-day actions. Yeah. But until you get to a line item on a to-do list that can be done today, you haven't gotten enough specificity.
Okay, this is the whole point. This is why I asked that last question about one action, because that's the thing. People don't take it from the top and put it all the way down, which are the reps that you're talking about. But what I find is that people change where the goal is, right? So often, so you go pick a mission, they start going down, this doesn't feel right, back up, go over here. How do you seem extremely clear, but how long did it take you to get that extreme clarity? Did you know day one that that's what you were going to do, or did it evolve over time?
The path changes a lot, but the mission, once I have a mission, then it doesn't change. So once I decided, okay, what I want to do is give people empowering beliefs, then that I haven't wavered on that, not literally for half a second. But the path has changed a lot. So there was stuff early in the beginning where I wasn't sure if we were going to be focused more on businesses and incubating businesses and really being a business accelerator, or if we're going to focus more on the media side. I wanted to do both because I think the fabric of society is really made up of the way that people think and the companies that they create based on that thinking. And so I wanted to do both. And then I just realized, in terms of what gives me more energy, while I love the act of building businesses and solving those problems and all of that, building a bunch of companies where the day-to-day grind of that company is not something I'm interested in was less interesting. So we took on a couple portfolio companies and then just sort of said, all right, we're going to move forward with these companies. But then on the media side, that's where we're going to be putting our day-to-day effort and energy into. So that changed. But it was entirely me looking at going, okay, uniquely me with my desires, my skill set, what's the best way to have the impact in terms of giving people the empowering belief system? And so if I find out, tomorrow that building the media company is not the way to do that, then I'll switch and pivot. But I wouldn't be pivoting away from the giving people an empowering belief system for one reason and one reason only. And that is, it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel good about myself. It is the thing that I've completely built, like this entire just like fire, just burning intensity of need and desire in my life. And that's so real that no one has to convince me to do anything that has to do with that, because that's what I'm just intrinsically driven by.
Okay, so when we look at the reps and the action like you were talking about before, but during a pivot, you actually have to change what those reps are. Do you have the foresight, like, okay, we're going to make a pivot, now the next 3 months look like this for actions, and you wipe away what you were planning on before? How does that work on a strategy standpoint?
Yeah. So again, you're working backwards from the goal. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is the path that I think is going to get me there. Here's the gap in skill set. Here's what I can outsource so that I don't have to deal with. And then here's where my area of strengths are so I can really push hard on these. The 95-5%. So 95% of the stuff that need to be done should be done by somebody other than you. And you want to stay as much as possible in the 5% where you're really powerful. But that is not an excuse to ignore the things that need to be done that you're weak at and you don't have anybody to outsource it to. So then you have to go and learn about that. So we're building a comic book publishing company. Really? And when I say I knew nothing about this, Jaime, I knew nothing about this.
I'm a super geek.
A year ago.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you.
Jaime,
I'm so excited for you.
That's amazing. So I knew nothing about it, but I know how to research. And so leveraging that 5%, like I don't outsource my research, not even with the episodes. I do all my own research. And the reason is that is something that I'm uniquely capable of. I've spent a lot of time and energy to get phenomenal, truly world-class at that. So I want to make sure that I'm leveraging my strength there. So I now go and I'm learning about this thing. So whatever it is, like getting good at those foundational things, like learning, like research, how to figure something new out, how to tap into your passion, how to leverage your time and energy. So that's the first thing. It's just you have to understand what you're going into. So the best piece of business advice I ever got was from my father-in-law, and I ignored it for about 3 years, which is still heartbreaking to me, and I apologize to him every time I see him. And that is know more about the problem than anyone else. Know more about the deal than anyone else. Just when you're walking into a room or you're trying to build strategy, you've just got to know more about it, whatever it is, than anyone else. So knowing that we were going to build this comic book publishing arm, it was like I just went and bought every book that I could on the subject. I subscribed to every Twitter feed, every Instagram person, YouTube page. If anybody's talking about the industry, then I'm all in. And then you just humble yourself daily, ask questions, sit at people's feet. Once you understand the problem at a deep and fundamental level, the path to execution then becomes apparent. But it's getting to the point where you understand the problem. So it gets hard because I'm having to be like general so that it applies to everybody. So understand the problem. That's like the really specific takeaway. And then get really good at identifying what you need to deliver to actually get rid of that problem.
So when we're like going into a totally new space, right? The research thing, everybody is probably excited. Like I was super excited you talking about that. I want to research comic books. That sounds great. I love that piece, right? And that seems not as scary to people. But when we're talking about beliefs and you have this big idea, how do you go from that gap to goal? So for instance, you did the research piece, you know the problem. Now you actually have to go do something with the problem. Even if the way is clear, some people, me also, goes, that's huge. That's really, really big. And then they hold themselves back, or they don't go all in, or they dabble and be like, it's going to come to fruition soon. How do you have that belief subset that you can do however big the problem is?
Yeah. So I try to abstract myself from, I don't want to have to believe that I'm capable of something. I just want to believe that the human animal is capable of that. Because then I just have to go, well, the human animal is capable of this and I happen to be a human, therefore I can do this. So and I'll just give everybody the magic takeaway. If it doesn't violate the laws of physics, it's possible. Cool. So now that we know that, as long as we're not doing something that violates the laws of physics, we can do it. We can get that good. The question becomes, are we willing to put in the energy and the effort to get that good? And if the thought of knowing more about the comic industry than any other human that's ever lived is so cool to me. Like, I love it so much, and I love being around that kind of storytelling and the art, and just everything about it is cool to me. Yeah. So that was like, yeah, I want to learn about that. Then it becomes like, do you fall in love with the process of learning? And here's what I will give everybody that will hopefully click them over into loving the process of learning, so that, and we'll get to, then they need to put themselves on the hook. They need to tell people that they're doing it so that they're embarrassed to not do it. So they need to trap themselves, because otherwise they're going to back off because they didn't, publicly profess. Like, for the last almost 18 months now, I've been telling everybody, oh, I'm building the next Disney, and we're going to create a comic book publishing arm. So now if I don't, it's going to be really embarrassing. So that you're
Quest guy didn't do that yet, right? Like,
right, yeah. Exactly. So you're putting yourself on the hook. But before you get to that, just believing that humans can do anything they set their mind to, as long as it doesn't violate the laws of physics, then it's like you just go down that path. You start doing that. You start learning about it. And again, I tie it to just, I know humans are capable of this. So I'm going to assume that then I can learn it. I'm not the person I need to be today. I fully accept that, but I can learn. And so then you can just look at yourself on a day-to-day basis to know, am I doing the things that I need to do to identify the problem? Yes, cool. All right. Now that I know the problem, have I made the list of things that I need to be executing against? Yes, cool. Okay. Have I put myself on the hook? Have I told people, have I told anyone who will listen that I am going to build this thing, right? So I'm just out there relentlessly telling people I'm going to do it. Most people laugh. They think it's ridiculous. They think I'm going to fail. But you can't imagine how many people I've taken out. And I'm dancing around your question a bit, so make sure that I come back and really put a fine point on it. But I want people to hear, I'm just as scared as you are. And these are the things that I do to make sure that I do it. So first and foremost, I don't want to play at business. I want to actually do it. So making believe like I'm doing it is something, that self-awareness that I have. I'm constantly checking myself. Am I really building a comic book publishing arm, or am I just telling people I'm building it? I want to know, and I need metrics to check myself against. Then I find anybody that knows more than me, and I ask them one simple question. Why am I going to fail? I don't ask them how to succeed. I want to know, how am I going to fail? First of all, people are often far better at giving you the advice of all the problems, all the pitfalls. And also, I find that if it's not a good idea, it's not going to survive criticism. If it is a good idea, if you have enough energy and intensity for it, then the criticism's not going to bother you. It's going to feel like you're really beginning to understand something. And you're going to see, do I have the energy and the excitement around this to overcome this stuff? So I go and ask that question. I find as many people who can advise me as possible. Sometimes it's as simple as taking them out to lunch. And other times it's throwing money at them. And then sometimes it's finding a way to just add a freakish amount of value to their life, their ecosystem, whatever. And then they'll be willing to answer a very short question. And if it's something, simple, you want to know one specific piece about whatever, have that question, make it as easy for them to give you the answer as possible. But the thing that I do on that is I make sure that I'm not playing at what I'm saying. I make sure that I tell everyone that I'm doing it, which operates in two levels. One, congruent. I want to be accountable to the things that I said. And then two, you will be shocked. Like, I had no idea that you were into comics. But now I say it to you, right? And you pull that little figurine. Now we have a connection. But neither of us would have known that if I had been shy and I didn't want to say anything. So, man, I like go crazy. I literally tell anybody. And because I just find that you get all these weird little connections. And then because I tell people, and I'm willing to humble myself and sit at their feet and truly just want to learn, those things create the mechanism by which then I actually know how to go out and execute. And then look, identity is a huge thing. Like, it is a huge part of my identity to be willing to take these huge risks, to aim for things that are just absolutely massive. And my gut check is always terraforming Mars. So Elon Musk is going to terraform Mars. Building a comic book publishing company just doesn't seem anywhere near as scary, right? So ask yourself, is what I'm doing, is that going to be as hard as terraforming Mars? Is that going to take as long as terraforming Mars? Like, Elon Musk is literally building rockets that didn't exist in order to go to Mars. And that's just the beginning. So yeah. That's my identity. And so identity controls behavior.
See, okay, but what if your identity is not that? Because what I'm hearing from you, especially when you say, oh, I'm a human and I am capable of this, a lot of people can say that logically, even think it, be like, yes, I know he's correct. And then all the feelings of insecurity don't feel that way in any way, even though they know it's logically correct. How do you program the whole rest of your body to believe it also? Does that make sense? Instead of just convincing 100%. Your mind.
Yeah, so I have a belief system that I call the impact theory belief system, which if anybody wants 25 bullet points, you can download it at impacttheory.com. And it is the 25 things that you need to repeat over and over and over in order to change your life. So I really believe there are only two things that matter in building a mindset: what you say to yourself and repeat over and over and over, and what you say to others and repeat out loud over and over and over. That's it. Literally, those two things, they will determine the course of your life. So if, when you have that moment of panic of like, oh, I can't do this, you allow yourself to repeat that, you're done. I can't help you. Jaime can't help you. Nobody can help you. You are screwed, because that's how much that matters. If, on the other hand, you go, wait a second, instead of saying I can't do this, which that is going to happen. You're going to say that. That's going to trigger in your mind. It still triggers in mind. So it's going to trigger in your mind. But if you use that as a reminder, as what they call a habit loop trigger, to repeat the empowering belief, which is humans can do anything they set their mind to as long as it doesn't violate the laws of physics, right? So I just shorthand it to humans can do anything they set their mind to. Okay, I can't do this. Wait, no, that's not true. Humans can do anything they set their mind to. Cool. Elon Musk is going to terraform Mars. It's just not that complicated. What I want to do doesn't violate the laws of physics. And I repeat that over and over and over. And there's, like I said, 25 of those things. Do and believe that which moves you towards your goals. Does believing that I can't do this move me towards my goal? Nope. Okay, well, then I'm not going to believe that. So because it doesn't move me towards my goal, and because that is part of my absolute operating system, then I'm going to repeat. Notice I didn't say believe. The only belief I need people to own is that humans can learn. That's it. If you believe that humans are designed to learn, they're designed to grow and adapt, then it's just, okay, I don't know it yet. I'm not the right person yet, but I can become the right person. And I repeat that stuff relentlessly. So you are what you repeat silently and out loud. That's it. Master that, and you're literally 90% of the way there.
It's like you're growing your comfort zone of thoughts, right? Like, because you sound like you're going, I believe this piece, so I'm willing to go here. And then I believe this piece, and I'm willing to go here. How do you have the awareness internally? Like, I know my best friend used to slap me every time I used to say things. So that way I would be aware, because sometimes it wasn't totally aware. I'm getting better at this, and I'll reframe. If I say something to somebody else, I'll be like, nope, that's not what I meant. It's this, which I sound like a weirdo, but still. How do you do it internally? Sometimes when I have ADD, when thoughts go crazy and you can't get every single one of them, how do I even pay more attention to the internal thoughts?
So this goes back to humans can increase their capacity for anything. So if you have ADD, if you find that your thoughts wander, then take up a mindfulness practice, which is literally just practicing, always noticing that, oh, my thoughts have drifted, bring them back, bring them back, bring them back. And while I didn't realize it was happening at the time, something that became a wax on, wax off thing for me when I was in a phase where I didn't believe in meditation, I thought it was stupid. And so I didn't want to do it, which, God, that was dumb. But nonetheless, it's true. For business, I had to learn contracts. And reading contracts for me is like having bamboo shoots stuffed under my fingernails. It is beyond painful for me. It does something to my mind where my mind wants to be anywhere other than reading that contract. And so I had to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And I'm like, you're drifting again. Come back, come back. Rephrase that sentence in your head. What did it mean? Did you really understand that? What are the implications of it? You're drifting again. Come back, come back. And so contracts became my meditation. It became my practice of like coming back, coming back. And there's a much better way to do it, which is meditating. But if you don't want to meditate for whatever reason, get really good at reading contracts. You just need some practice where you have to keep bringing yourself back. And so then there's a guy named Dr. Daniel Amen who has this concept of ants, automatic negative thoughts. So they're going to happen. They're automatic. Your job is to start recognizing them immediately, switch them through what I was talking about earlier as a habit loop trigger to say the empowering thought, and just do that. Just practice it, just like you would practice meditation or reading contracts. You just come back to it over and over and over. Every time you have a negative thought, say the empowering one inside, say it outside, do whatever you need to, but just reinforce the empowerment.
I so appreciate you saying this, because I've been meditating for a long period of time. And I've gotten so much better. When I mention meditation to business owner clients or online, they're all like, I can't, not for me. So good. We gave them other options. Reading contracts. Yeah, that sounds so much more fun than sitting and meditating, right? But it helped me slow my brain down so I can be a lot more aware, because before I wasn't conscious at all. I'm sort of like moving through the steps, right? And so I know we have to start wrapping up in a second. You're fantastic. I love the science side of this, because a lot of people, especially business people right now that are listening, are like, yeah, I know, but meditation is woo-woo or whatever. And if we can actually go through and go, yeah, but with neuroscience, it actually reprograms your brain. Wouldn't you like to do that? So you don't have to think the crappy thoughts that led you to the crappy place that you are right now. Don't you want to be happy and more fulfilled? I think that's huge. So I'm going to ask the last question. And everybody should download do you not call them affirmations? The repeated statements? What do you call them?
No, it's the impact theory belief system, because they're not all worded in ways to be repeated. They're when I wrote it, it was originally like, here are the things that I've had to come to believe. I've had to teach myself to believe in order to do what I've done. So, but thinking of them, like rewriting it in your own mind is something that you can repeat, I think is a very worthwhile endeavor.
We're a computer program and it'll just redo it. I'm going to print it out after. So everybody make sure they check that out. But the last question is, what's one action besides downloading that and printing it out and putting it out? What's one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of 1 million?
Yeah, so I would write down the ultra specific goal and path. Like, they need to be very short, executable points. Doing that, like the degree of specificity that you need to be successful is so crazy. This is the thing that I don't know how to get over. The most powerful thing I've said in this is about specificity. And it's the thing that people think, yeah, I got that. And you just don't. I'm telling you, I've talked to so many people and the specificity isn't there. And so I'll give another one, since I'd already talked about specificity, something I haven't talked about yet, which is to develop a morning routine where you're doing what I call important things before you do any other emails, any meetings. Keep a list of the most important things you could be doing to move yourself towards that goal of 1 million, and make sure that you attack that first. To give you an idea, I spend probably at least 6 hours working on my important things before I look at my first email, before I take a meeting with my first employee. That is just so critical. And I try to do 8 hours. Now I get up ridiculously early.
You must.
So,
what time is it?
yeah.
Can you just highlight what you do? Because I think everyone's going, that's amazing. What do I fill those 6 hours with? Not that they have to be 6 hours for everyone else, but.
So my morning routine looks like this. So first of all, your morning routine starts the night before. So I go to bed at 9 like it's a religion. I don't set an alarm. I prioritize sleep. I think to be cognitively optimized, you need to prioritize sleep. So I get as much sleep as I need. Now, the great news is that I average probably about 6 hours of sleep a night. But there are I'll go on weird benders where I'll be sleeping 8 hours of sleep. Hey, fine, so be it. I prioritize sleep. But so I sleep till I wake up, because I go to bed at 9 and my average is 6 hours. That means I'm usually up around 3 or 4 a.m. I immediately go to the gym because I hate it. So I get it out of the way. I think it's super important, again, for cognitive optimization. Super important to work out. Then I immediately meditate. And for the science people in the crowd, the reason they should be meditating is it triggers the parasympathetic nervous system when you're breathing from your diaphragm. It's a physiological trigger into a different state of being. You've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. You have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. But I'll also say takes you into an alpha wave state, which is calm and creative. So you want to be in the calm and creative state as much as you can. Meditating is the way to get there. Now, I used to get very frustrated with meditation because I wasn't supposed to think anything, and I would have these amazing thoughts because I was in a calm and creative state. So I started doing what I call thinkitating immediately after. So I do about 15 to 20 minutes of meditation, and really simple meditation, no guided, nothing, literally just breathing. And then I go into thinkitating, where I maintain that breath control, but now I start thinking about the biggest problems that I face in my business. And I'm in that calm and creative state. And so a lot of times I'll get breakthrough ideas. It's amazing. And I'll say 30% of the time it's like breakthrough, 70% of the time it's like, but for that 30% of the time, man, it is absolutely worth it. After I thincitate, then I start going through, either I read or I start going through my important things list, depending on what time I woke up. If I woke up really early, I read first. And if I didn't, then I immediately move on to my important things list, which is something that I kept the day before. So I'm not thinking of the important things. I'm just now going down the list and attacking them. What do I need to write? Like today, my important things was contracts. We were sending out contracts to writers and artists, and I needed to finish it. So that was the first thing that I did this morning at like 4:30 a.m. or whatever time it was, I'm sitting there writing contracts. And that one in particular took several hours. So, but doing that, going through all of that stuff. And then I would just keep working my way down my important things list. My first employee shows up usually somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30. And then I never take meetings before 10. So if I got up at 4 a.m. and then my first meeting is until 10, there's my 6 hours.
That was fantastic. Okay. And I love that you say you think a tape, because I totally tell people to do this all the time. I have never branded it, so I'm now going to use your branding. Thank you so much. Everybody, please write it down right now and then set it for tomorrow. It's not rocket science, people. I know Hal Elrod has come on the show and over tell people to do this. Please actually do it this time. I know most people won't, so do it. Otherwise, you won't see the results, and that's sort of the whole point. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming on the show today. Where do they find out, besides the sheet, where can we follow you online? I know you're on tons of social.
Yeah, I'm super active socially. It's at Tom Bilyeu everywhere, and my last name is spelled B as in Bravo, I-L-Y-E-U.
And we will definitely link that in all the show notes. Everyone follow him. He's fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want to check out more amazing resources, I'm only curating the best of the best. Go check out eventualmillionaire.com. You can take the Eventual Millionaire quiz, figure out where you are in business and what you need right now. Plus, you can look at curated resources specifically for you on the new Start Here page. I'm so excited. Please join us. Please let me know if you need anything at all. I'm here for you. And have a fantastic day. Bye.